Hello, everyone. It's Manifestation Monday. We're here with Lumiere, who's in black and white, and Jay-Z, who's in full color. And today we're talking about the money, money, money chapter of Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. All right, Jay-Z, take it away.
All right, yeah. Money, money, money. I all right, I want to start this off with asking you guys um in the third paragraph she says here, we've got a truckload of these juiced up words in our language, but there's only one which can lay claim to consistently winning the quote unquote top negative word vibration award. That word is money.
Whoa.
All right. What do you guys think of that assertion? Agree? Disagree? Is that your number one? If you had to vote for the number one top negative word vibration word, what would you say it was?
I'll let Alexander start because I think he has a complex relationship with money as far as that word.
He knows that I do. Uh, well, I mean, it depends on your perspective and who you are. I don't think Carnegie would have said that it's a negative vibration. I think it's a negative vibration word for people that don't have it. And this is written for people who want to get it when they don't have it. I'm pointing at the screen. But
Ah,
so
okay.
so I would say that's a negative word, but I don't know that it has to be. In the
Hmm.
mid 80s, for reasons I'm not really sure, I had money and it wasn't a negative word vibration. I felt like I could say money confidently. I have money. Sure. I have enough money for that. I'll do that. And it bugged me and I didn't like having that money and then I but if it's not my top negative word vibration, I think the word might be anger. It Anger is the word that really I feel is uh, ever present and it it can't conjure up a positive word vibration. You can
Do you
have good
feel?
stress, euro stress, and bad stress. You can't have good anger and bad anger, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
I think you
What
can
about
use
righteous,
anger,
righteous anger?
righteous. I don't think that's good either. But you can use anger to be productive and do something with that anger, like protest marches, etc. But I don't think anger is a could ever be a positive word vibration. I think I don't know about top for money. What do you think? You plural.
Well, I have spent years taking away the negative vibration around money because I have to talk to people about money so much for what we do. Like as producers and working with artists, we have to talk money constantly because money drives the queue. Like we work with a queue all the time. What's going to the top of the queue? Well, it depends on who needs money when, where does money go? Like we're working on this album with Jay-Z and we have to talk money to be like, how is this production going to flow? We got the sound engineer, we got me, like who's paying for what, like kind of thing. And like
Right.
I actually keep this litigious ledgers about money to make
Wow.
help make decisions about cues all the time. If like, do I go sign language interpreting more? Do I go over here? Time is money, money is time, time or money. And so I think one of the reasons, but I think money comes into haves and have nots. Right, like there's the people who have money and the people who don't have money. And so it becomes this kind of negative word because it's like, do you have it? Do you not have it? Do you want it? Are you an oppressor because you have it? Are you a capitalist? Like, there's all these people fighting over money. And like, I'm like, I am literally a mathematician about money. Like, I assign no emotion to it. It drives a cue depending on decision making. But in the gamification of business, if you make money, you're winning the game. And if you don't make money, you're kind of not winning the game. So I love money because it's a gamification of life for me as an entrepreneur. Like I think it's fun as shit to make money. Because it's like winning a video game is fun. Like who likes to lose over and over on their video game? I mean, I don't know. So But see how now you probably think I'm a jerk? Like people listening are like, that capitalist. See what I mean? It's like so charged money.
It is. It is politically charged. Jay-Z?
Yeah, I don't have negative vibrations towards money because it hasn't been like a negative force or a lacking thing in my life. I have always worked for my money, and then I feel fine about that too. Like I work and then I have money, and then I didn't have a full-time job for a really long time because I would work for a while and save up money and then not work and enjoy my time because I think in a lot of times it's time or money, and it's kind of like a tension between those two, or it's like for me it's always been difficult in my life to have both of those things, the time to do the fun things I want to do and the money to do it if I'm working, spending my time for the money. But maybe that is like the lacking. uh, she points out in the next, heading of like that we have she asserts we have these old beliefs about money that doesn't let the abundance of it flow because we think like you've got to work hard to get it and it's got to be earned and you don't get something for nothing, and and maybe and you have to strive for your money.
Right.
um, Maybe those are like you said. I do like what you said, Alexander, about like that we have to remember that she's writing to the audience who would be drawn to a book that says, "Excuse me, your life is waiting."
Right. It could be, excuse me, your cash is waiting. Joking. But the other thing I thought when I was reading these paragraphs too is that she has this list of cliches. And for any of us who are now ancient and were raised with it goes out faster than it comes in. I never have enough. Money is the root of all. We need to save for retirement. I'll be happy when I get. We must strive hard for your money doesn't grow on trees, especially like money doesn't grow on trees, and you don't get something for nothing. Those things are hard to get rid of. I heard them since I was knee high to a grasshopper, and for all those years, you know, they're in your head. They're etched.
So I was thinking about that when particularly the one that says the money doesn't grow on trees, because it does sound like it's something that like a parent says to a child
A
So
lot of these.
why is it that children don't think that there's a lack of money? And why is it that parents have to teach that to their children or feel they have to?
Well, I think it's decision making. Like, I just took my daughter to the pawn shop because we were looking for amps and stuff, and she liked this ring, and so they took the ring, and I thought, well, I'm not paying $70 for that ring because no matter how much money I have, that tiny ring that could be lost is not worth $70. You can get a cool, cute ring for $5. Like, so I said to her, like, do you have your Visa gift card from Christmas? That's why I give her money for Christmas is so she can make decisions with her cue of like, is this, you know, is this ring worth it to me to spend my money? And I think it's kids have I don't know. I think yeah, money is like it's like no matter how much money I have, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not paying for that thing. That's just not worth that much money. Like, I could have $1 billion and still not want to spend $300 on an amp when I could get it for 150. Like I just like part of how you accumulate money is protecting your money. That's good stewardship of your finances. And so, I think, or having low overhead, for example, is one way to be a good business person. But so I think kids don't have all that acumen of, so I don't think, I mean, you could say, yeah, kids have a better view of money. And I'm like, from a mathematical perspective, I'm like, yeah, they don't freaking know. They don't know about money. Like
No.
no, I gotta teach them, like,
And I think it's possibly because they don't work. I don't know if yours is working, but mine isn't working. Both of mine aren't working. So they don't have, and my youngest one will say, uh, yeah, we have to get this. And yeah, he doesn't understand that this is like $1,000 and I can't get this. I'm making numbers up, but he just says we need to get this or we should have this. And but he doesn't understand how the money trail comes to be able to get that. It doesn't work. And he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have a bank.
Well, it's so interesting. So yesterday we were doing this mega manifestation lecture. We were talking about the ancient grasping urge, which is they say in manifestation theory that what you grasp at is what your soul's trying to manifest. So let's say I'm trying to manifest a manuscript or something. I might grasp at my pen, like grab a pen, like it's called the grasping urge. So like they do this with babies in China or whatever. They'll put like 10 objects out in front of them when they're babies, and whatever they grasp at is like it predicts their future career. And there's like all this kind of like statistics on it and everything like that. Well, anyway, I think of shopping as taking your kid out to grasp at things. It's like if you take your kid to Michael's, the craft store, they're like grasping at all the things they need to make their vision, right? Like, so when your kid says, we need this, he's actually visioning as an artist, whatever he might need, supplies, he might need
Yeah,
something, his video game. So that's actually something I always listen to. Whatever the kid vision is, I'm like, okay, how can we get that for you? And do maybe we need to get it for $100 at the pawn shop instead of $1,000 at the, but it's like it's like I always take seriously what they're trying to get, but it's like they might not understand the technicals of how to get it for cheap. And.
right. Right. I do that too. And if it's something that I can easily get, I just do. If he says, I'd really like to have this, I do that. And I don't explain anything about money to him. But then if it's not that, I'd have to figure out some way to get it if it's going to be hard for me to get. But I feel like I'm not explaining. I want them to understand about money, that it comes and it goes, and it's not just the river of money. But I don't think they need to know what I know because they're going to know that the rest of their life. It's a little bit like shaving. Like once you start to shave, you got to shave, unless you're Jay-Z.
Yeah, Jay-Z shaves his head probably.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
once you start shaving your head, you got to shave it. So,
That's a
um,
really good analogy. Like you don't want them to have to deal with the money queue until they really have to.
right,
Mhm.
right, because you can't unknow it,
Yeah.
and you have to learn to live with it in a philosophical way that we may have learned, the three of us, but it will take them a long time to do that. So,
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
okay, I think the point of the book, though, is she's saying, though, if you give the money a place to flow to, then you'll make more money, right? Like your river, if you say, my river is flowing to an album, like then you'll be like, oh, I need more money to flow to the album. I need more money. Like she kind of makes the point that if we have a place to flow to,
right,
then more comes in. What do you guys think of that?
yeah, my therapist tells me that all the time. It says you have to take a pit psychology and your emotions for what you want, the money to get what you want, and then because it's low, it's like water, it will fill.
Yeah, yeah, I liked that too when she said, so we can take Fern's example too, right? Like Fern's not like, I want, $2 million or $4 million or whatever. It's like, I want X million dollars to buy a house. And that's what she's saying in this book is like the right way to do it. Don't just say I want like some X amount of money, but really, because then I guess maybe this goes back to the that you have to feel the having of that thing. And it's not that people want the experience of like all the pennies so they can fill their bathtub and then rub them all over their body. They want the actual,
Which could be fun.
it could be.
Having a
Uh,
thousand pennies feels like a lot of money. It's like $10.
oh yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah, there was an artist. I think her name is Kiki Smith. She would do art installations. There was one at the List Gallery at MIT in Cambridge where she would have pennies, just like in these art installations that were deep amounts of like, oh, it was so cool.
Well, that's great. She does say you have to feel the passion behind every word, because without the new feelings, you will have you'll have no vibrational change.
Hmm.
So I believe that too. I also go back to over and over again, forgive me if I keep doing this, but in the 80s, there was a book that was written in the 80s that I read in the 80s that informed me a lot, it was by Marcia Senator, and it was called Do What You Love, the Money Will Follow. So I think I did that.
Is that how you got the money that you had in the 80s that you referred to at the top of the show?
Yeah. Yeah. I was managing a couple of tobacco shops, and I didn't want to do that. And I got interested in carpentry. And at a party, I met a guy who was a carpenter. I knew him for a while, but I talked to him about carpenter, and he said, "All right, well, show up." So I showed up with a hammer and a tool belt, and I learned carpentry. And before I knew it, I was making a lot of money as a carpenter, and I was still managing the tobacco shops because I could set the schedule. So I did carpentry during the day. I left there at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, went home, took a shower, and went to. So it was a lot of work for a while, but um, it was something I wanted to do, Andy.
Can I say something about that? Well, okay, so I actually read this in a manifestation book. It was a different one, but it was talking about how if you want to make a lot of money, you should want things. Like, you know how in manifestation we're learning to want things, right? So it was saying like want what you would do with the money that you want to make. Like, so I had to think about things I actually want. I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I'm happy how I am. Well, I'm like, well, I actually want a house cleaner because like there's nothing in my chart that cleans because like I just never move it to up my queue. I'm just like, no, it does not. Like I wouldn't can't I don't have time to clean today. Yeah, like but anyway, so like I never have gotten a house cleaner because like Shane ends up he's a double Virgo, so he's like that's a waste of money. I'll clean, and I'm just like baby, I can't clean, like like you know. But the point is that wanting a cleaner made me want to make more money in an hour. You know what I'm saying? Or like
Yeah,
a thing that we want at the Moira Press is better outfits because we've moved from like basically Facebook production to TV production. Like these are like talk shows, right? So it's like I need outfits. If I'm on camera 5 days a week, I need outfits, right? Like, but it's like it costs money to get outfits, right? So it's like I could have this same level of production where we're having the same outfit all the time, the crust punk version, or we can like step it up a notch, right? And so I think that's what I had to learn is to want a better life so that I could want more money, you know, because that's kind of what you're saying is like do what you want and the money will follow. And
you'll find
that,
a way to get the
yes.
right. So it's the same sort of like if you're saving for a rocking horse, you want the rocking horse, and the goal is to save for the rocking horse. If you're a kid, you save for the rocking horse, then you get the rocking horse. But the thing, you can't just save the money and hope you'll find something you really like. You have the rocking horse in your head. I think that's what Marcia Sinitar was talking about, which made sense to me. And
And that's so
I,
much of manifestation is the visioning, right? Like you can see a rocking horse. If you just save money, you don't see anything other than a pile of money, which means nothing actually, right?
right,
So
right.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what she's trying to get at when she does the exercise of the $100 bill in your pocket, right? It's like lubing the like pathways of wanting things. And so if people haven't read the book already, what her exercise is you take the biggest amount of money that you can gather together, like in a bill, like 100, like if you can, get $100 bill, and you put it in your pocket, and then you go shopping. And you don't actually buy the things, but on this shopping trip, you go to like somewhere like the mall or wherever, and you start looking around and you be like, hey, I really like that thing. I could buy that with my $100. And you're not supposed to like find like, $25 things, but you're supposed to buy things that would be a chunk of your $100 or like all of your $100. It'd be like, I could buy that if I wanted to. And then you're like, well, I'd really like to get that. And
Hmm.
then you start looking around, and you're like, wow, I would like to get that. I could buy that if I wanted to. And then you get to feel out like, oh, well, this is what it feels like to like be able to just like buy the $100 thing if you want it and to want the $100 thing.
Hmm. Yeah, what I find with people who don't have any money is that they actually keep manifesting that by not caring about money, or they say things like, "Oh, I don't know." I mean, or like, and because I watch other people like working at really low paying jobs, and then they're suffering, and like I was talking to the store clerk or whatever, and he was just like, "Well, my life's really boring. Every day's the same, but I'm stuck here." And I'm like, "Well, you're stuck here because you keep choosing this job. There's something called opportunity cost, which is when you work for $15 an hour, you're actually taking away the opportunity to work for more an hour. Like you're actually costing your money by making 17, you're costing yourself money. So a lot of people who don't have any money just they act like they don't care about it, or they keep saying like, like I just don't care. Like God, but it's interesting because that $100 exercise makes you not care about having $100, but kind of like you're like, well, if I had $100, I would want this, and I would want this, and I would want this. But it's like you have to exercise your muscle of thinking big, kind of.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah. That
think
also reminded
minimalism.
me, Andy and I have a friend named Jean, and she saves money. Probably doesn't have to save it much these days, but she saves money for a year, and then she and a friend go to Powell's bookstore in Portland, and it's $100 that they bring with them. They spend $100, shop for the books they want, have a year to think about what this is. They shop for the books they want. They do not go over $100, but they're wanting those things all year, and they make a date once a year, and they go shopping, and then they have lunch or whatever. But it's somewhat similar, except that they're actually buying, and your example was that you don't buy.
Well, can I say something about this? So there's something about anticipation as a drug. Okay, so when I'm in recovery for, just rocking too hard, but a lot of what addicts get really addicted to is the anticipation of their drug. Like you'll be smoking a cigarette, wanting the next cigarette. Like that's part of addiction, is like you can't, it's called a hungry ghost. Like no matter how much you smoke, you can't get enough smoking. Like no matter you drink, you can't get enough drinking. Well, there's actually like an anticipation addiction that I've learned to milk basically as a sober person, where it's the anticipation of the Powell's trip that is worth like millions. It's priceless. That the $100 is like neither here nor there, but like the anticipation of the rocking horse is what the kid actually loves, right? The
Right.
actually going out and getting that rocking house, like whatever. So that learning to want things is like learning to anticipate things, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I think so too, and I see that in my both of my sons. They want something, and with one of them having does not mean as much as wanting it.
So how does that kind of relate to though are the do you get stuck in the like not having the thing because you're not letting the energy and money flow because you're so into the like I don't have it and I love the anticipation I don't have it? Like where how does what where's the how does that work with this whole like that actually the things that you want will just flow to you if you want them.
Well, I like to want something, then make, well, Shane calls it fuck you levels of money. Like I like to make a fuck you level of money and be like, I can easily get that dress now. But it's like I've made like so much more money. Like I've made enough money that I don't care about paying for the dress. Basically, like that's actually how I do it. But like I have to want the thing, but I don't like give it to myself right away. I want it, then make a bunch of money, and then I'm like, dress out of the queue, want another thing. Because I'm trying to up the level for all of our artists. Because we're in a like when one boat rises, all the boats rise. And like I'm actually a philanthropist. Like being a producer, you actually are trying to get 100 boats to rise with you, and it's actually a community service. Like so, I actually am. Not, I'm a crust punk who doesn't care about money at all. I can make a show poster with a Sharpie and paper. Like I don't need money to produce cool stuff. Actually, I can go to Goodwill and, get a dress and sew it up with a bunch of weird things and make a crust doll outfit. Like I don't, but if I don't want things, then my artists don't rise either. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I think it's really important to get the thing you want. It's like if you want to have like make out with your partner and they never give it to you. Sorry, that's a really X-rated example. But let's say your partner constantly denies you. They're like, no, thanks. Like you have to stop wanting that. Or else you're
Do you?
just, I do. If someone
Or
doesn't
you?
want me, eventually I'm like, yeah, no, thanks on you.
Well, just I would look for another partner.
Well, exactly. Like if you can't, but yeah, I mean, if you can't get what you want, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's important to give yourself the thing.
Uh, well, I think you have to monitor your addiction to whatever that is. You know that people collect like Grateful Dead records, and you can't stop them. I have this record. It's 15 times, but this one is pristine, and it was found in a junkyard, and so you end up doing that kind of stuff. So you have to watch. But I do think that you should reward yourself and those around you with what you think will satisfy people. Maybe satisfy is not the right word, but reward
Well,
people.
I think, it's like eventually you'll stop wanting the thing if you don't. And I don't know, that's such a good question. Like, does it, once you give yourself the thing, you have to want a new thing if you want the money to keep flowing.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so. I think you have to get the thing and then you have to want another thing. But the point is to like, because I think we do always like want different things. Once we get something, we kind of re-baseline. I think humans are really amazing at re-baselining, right?
Yeah, interesting.
And and I think that that's a way to keep progressing though and getting better and better. And it's like, every day in every way, things are getting better and better. Like if if you don't get the thing or if you're just stagnant, if you're like, oh, I'm sitting here in my desire for that thing but never getting it, then you're not progressing. Things aren't getting better and better. But I think it's best if you achieve the thing that you wanted and then set out to achieve the next thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or are you in love with the fascination of almost getting that thing?
Yeah, I would argue that if you're in love with the fascination of almost getting that thing and then not getting it,
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
smokers like being denied their cigarette. I think it's
No.
anticipating it and then getting to have it, anticipating it and then getting to have it. That's fun.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
What about
I
what
love
about
building up the anticipation for something. You have to be careful not to be disappointed when you get it, not to build it up higher than what it is. So I found that where, oh my God, I want this thing. And then I get it and I think, wow, that's not so great.
yeah. Well, that makes me think of things that are priceless. Okay, so like, okay, these gloves I'm wearing, like these were given to me by Billy, he's my producer, but also one of my best friends in the world, right?
They're
Well,
great, by the
they
way.
probably cost him 250, right, at Walmart or something like that, right? But he gave them to me. He knows I love black and white stripes, so that stripes are one of the things that's my signature definer in fashion, and it's one of the things that defines you, like black and white stripes or stripes, right? And like it was just a point where I think I didn't know if he really cared or whatever, and he like came to a show and gave me the gloves off of his hands. He's like, I brought these for you. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
the gloves. But these are like $2.50, right? Like,
yeah.
so what about what makes something priceless?
Well, I think it's the inspiration factor, right? Like, it's not that what the gloves are worth, but the way that they make you feel and how they inspire you and energize you. It's like, it's more the energy than the money.
Yeah. It's the emotion. It's the emotion that's priceless.
Yeah, I feel like you don't like if you have an abundance mentality, you don't need money, very much money. Like I feel like Lumiere is like an artist in abundance mentality. Like where it's like you can look at it and be like, I've got the grass, I've got the sun, like I've got air, like I'm rich, like you can literally be
Yeah.
rich with nothing.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
I think we're on the money chapter, but I haven't read the next chapter because I just finished this one. But I think that there are coming up more chapters about other things that we might want, like relationships and other treasures is the name of the next chapter. So I think also it's where we want the abundance to happen, right? And we happen to talk about money right now, but money is not like the only thing. And what I'm finding interesting is at the new year, this yoga school that I'm part of, uh, every year at the beginning of the year, there's like an abundance manifestation, a prosperity manifestation series that everybody does together to help manifest the prosperity. And it can be, and so I was thinking about this also with astrology, right? And what house it is of what you want, right? So right now, before I had this vision of what I wanted was a relationship, but that's real seventh house. Really, what I backed up into is that the really what I want is like a fifth house thing of like fun and creativity and romance and good fortune. So that's not anything to do with like money, but it's prosperity of a different kind, right?
Right.
Well, it makes me think of how
Right.
I started to read that book, Think and Grow Rich. And I was like on chapter 2, and he was talking about how you have to want a lot of money and think about it and focus on it. And I was like, man, I don't care about money. I'm gonna read the book Think and Grow Rich with Friends. I want 100 friends, like or whatever. But it's like your version of prosperity might be different than money, and like that's your point, right? Like that's a really cool point.
My yeah, my version of prosperity is time. If I had time when I didn't have to look at this phone to see what time it was, I'd be happy. I would feel rich
Hmm.
because my life costs me time. I used to live in 15-minute increments, and now that's a little bit different. But my prosperity would be all the time to decide what I want to do with it and not have to think about the next thing I had to do.
Hmm. Interesting.
And with money, that would be great. And without money, that would be great if I had it too.
Hmm. Well, that's why I like to throw around money in production because it buys artists time. Like it buys people time. Like, can you put your autistic time on this project? Like, money allows artists time, actually.
Yes. That's why artists back in the day had patrons. The patrons took care of the time, made sure the artist got fed, housed, and I don't have any patrons. But to me, that's what they gave the artist time to drip paint 5 hours and see if anything turned up. I mean, some artists teach, some artists do other things, uh, but Pollock and Rothko and those people, they had patrons.
So in this chapter, she has the exercises of in order to like back to the feeling the thing. So in her examples, right, are like you want a new patio, and that's why you want the $25,000. It's like first you identify like what the amount of money you want is, but then it's not really that you want the amount of money, it's that you want the experience that that money would give to you. So for example, if you had $100,000 in the bank, you could quit your job for a year and just live off that $100,000. And that's why you want the money. You want the money to trade for time,
Right.
to buy yourself time. And so the next thing that she says in her example, right, is like there are two ways of getting into the feeling thing, right? And one is to have an imaginary conversation with a friend of if I had this $25,000 that I then spent on a patio, I'm gonna have this pretend conversation with a friend being like, oh, and then we built this patio and it's turned out so great because we have friends over, and then the kids do their homework out on the patio and blah blah blah. So, Lumiere, if you had the $100,000 in the bank that you could quit your job, and I guess this is why people are like, what would I do if I won the lottery?
Right.
What would it feel like?
Well, $100,000 right now would last about 2 weeks, but um, it would feel if I didn't have to worry about time, it would feel great. I would satisfy the need I have to write, and I would do other stuff with the time that I had. I would volunteer, which I used to do before I could. I'm not claiming them, but I would volunteer. I would help out the Oregon Food Bank or someplace like that. Um, but it would feel great, and I wouldn't think about the money. I would think about the time that it gave me. And to talk about the patio example, I wouldn't think about getting the patio. I'd think about myself doing stuff in the on the patio. And like Fern wants a 2,000 or $2 million house. I wouldn't think about I want a $3 million house, but I don't think about the house. I think about what I would do in it. I would have a like a 10 bedroom house that I could have artist retreats and workshops, stuff like that. And people would come and stay for a week. And the kids would have their thing. I would have my thing, but there would be all this space where people could get together. Maybe I would run them and maybe I wouldn't. Artists, musicians, they could come and hang out for a week. I don't think about the money, I think about the space. But I would feel if someone said, here's buku cash, do what you want. I would never think about the money again. I would be on cloud nine and I would never ever have to my goal is not to ever have to think about money because I consider money sordid, and it's just maybe how I feel based on when I grew up. But you can talk about art and music and literature, but when you talk about money, to me, it's like talking about the trash. That was the rant. But in short, I would feel terrific. To answer
Yeah.
your question. I
You
mean, really, to answer your question, if somebody gave me, you said $100,000, gave me $100,000, I might say, great. I am going to stop working for a year because I think I could live on $100,000 for a year. And I'm going to practice doing the things that I think I would do if I didn't have to worry about money and see how that year goes.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's what she wants us to do is to spend some time each day just sitting in the feeling of the time and space in your example, right? All you want is time and space.
Yeah.
The time and the space to do the things you wanted. Think of sitting, having a cup of coffee in your $3 million house, not having to go to your job, obviously, and then the visiting poet comes down the hall and is sits and has a cup of coffee with you.
That would be great.
And you talk about, they're like, oh, I just thought of this great line, but I need it to rhyme with this. What do you think, Alexander?
Yeah, that would be great. It would be great. Or musicians or astrologers, and you could hear I mean it would thrill me to walk out into the dining area and people sitting around a table talking about astrology, uh, music, or to hear people playing music or talking about literature, or practicing their art out on the hill where you can see the Columbia River. That would thrill me. And then I would do my thing too, my own little mediocre way. But she says, uh, you speak it and feel it the way you'd want it to be if you were living your fantasy. I think it means that you don't think of it as a fantasy because a fantasy is often something that you may not have. I mean, you
Oh,
might have a sexual fantasy that could come to life, like get out the chocolate syrup, and that could come to life. But um, a real fantasy is something that's kind of hard to attain.
what do you think, Andy?
About chocolate syrup.
Well, so I have a little bit of a different take on this. People wanting to buy time to be themselves. A lot of artists want that and they really covet like a lot of money to just express. And what we know from reading the ancient Hermetic texts is that what a person's supposed to do is express their chart one mania at a time, and you feel like you're flying. You feel like you're never working a day in your life if you do that, right? So even these artists who want $100,000 to carve out time, a lot of them don't know their charts, and so they don't really even know what they would do. Like, it's like I teach people to monetize their charts so that they are always flying. Like for me, if I was given $100,000, I would keep doing exactly what I'm doing because I work to my chart every day. I just monetize everything my chart wants to do. So I'm already flying. Like I don't need to purchase time for myself to be myself because I live to my transits one day at a time. So I am being myself. But I just do what I would do, but for money. Like I don't do what I would do for free, which I could do if I wanted. Like for example, my chart mania is on astrology. So I could just be telling people like, oh, I'll read your chart for free. It's just astrology. I mean, but I say to them, no, I'm autistic on astrology. And if you want me to focus on your chart, you buy this container of time and I will focus on you. And like, but it's just hard to explain. But that in the mega manifestation lecture, that's what we're teaching is to mega manifest yourself and monetize that. And then you are always free. So I don't need $100,000 to be free.
No, I'd say you're living the way you would live if you had $100,000.
Yeah. But
And I
there is
think
a
that
number, there is a number that if people have it, they relax. It's $78,000. Like they
is
say
it?
that's the number.
I think I also read that that number went up.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't get much for 78,000, but um, it could be that I also know this that my vision of this is skewed by a romantic notion of artists being patronized,
Hmm.
which is really old school, like even before my parents were born. So, but it's a romantic notion, and I may be living that still here anyway, even if I don't believe it.
People have offered to fund my art, or I could go after a grant, but the reason I don't do that is because I don't want to have a boss telling me what I should do. Like as an independent artist, I want to I want to fund my own art so I can do what I want. Like, maybe somebody funds me and then they say, well, you have to do XYZ. I was like, my chart doesn't feel like doing that right now. Like, I'm gonna, my chart feels like making really crappy, wobby, sobby videos of myself playing the piano right now that are imperfect. And they're like, you need to be perfect. I'm like, yeah, not feeling it, no thanks. But like that's the Fugazi approach of Fugazi was an independent, like I'm an independent label, right? And that's the crust punk way is like, we're not for sale. Like I'm just not for sale. Like I don't want to be patronized. Like, isn't that a funny double meaning? Like, don't
Yeah,
patronize me. Like,
right. No, and
Well,
I would probably not like it either. I mean, if somebody came to me and said, "You can live in my mansion and you do your work and just talk to me a little bit," they would want control, and I wouldn't like that.
so how does this resolve with the whole like you need to be open to receive? Like, because that's another thing also from this chapter, right? Is
Yeah,
the universe will provide for you and you have to be open to receiving it.
well,
Do
you know
things
what
always,
potlatching is.
what's that?
You know what potlatching is? When people
yes,
give you something and then expect things in return later. That's like if a guy buys you dinner and then he expects, whatever. Yeah, I don't receive it all. I'm like, no thanks on your money. Like I don't know. Like I prefer to make it all myself for control. It's creative control reasons. But yeah, yeah, like I've been denying my boyfriend the right to buy me dinner for 2 straight years. But don't, yeah, I have a problem with this one.
well, give him my number.
But Jay-Z, I just am giving you a really big gift right now and you're receiving it and I'm so glad. But like if you gave me something big, I would receive it because we've been best friends for like 20 years and I trust you.
Yeah, see, I think that has to that this where maybe we're getting into it has to be like you have to know that there are no strings attached, right? So here's an example. The last week, I don't know, it came up in my whatever feed, these really cool things that are like these air drums. So it's like these drumsticks, right? And then their Bluetooth, and then they have these things that you strap around your ankles, one for the bass drum and the other for the hi-hat. And you can play, and it's a MIDI controller too. And I thought it was so cool. I'm like, oh my God, that thing is so cool. And I looked up how expensive it was. And I'm like, oh, never mind. I'm not going to buy that for myself. And then when I got here to North Carolina, my in-law opened the door. He's like, hey, I have a present for you. And it was
Whoa,
literally that thing, and actually a much better version than I was looking at. I'm like, no way, really? And honest to God, he just got it because he loves me and he knows that I would love it and how much I love to play all sorts of different weird instruments. And I'm just like, I was so kind of floored and overjoyed. And it was kind of ringing from this book of being like, if you want the thing, it's just like somebody will give it to you or it will show up or whatever, you know?
right, right. I see that you threw it out there and then it landed on him. But he was also practicing his abundance. He was sharing his abundance and saying, "I can give this to you. It's a thing I know you would like, whatever it costs." Pick a number, say $20, and there was a lot more than that, but say $20. He didn't say, "I'm going to give Jay-Z $20. I'm going to give him this thing he'll love."
I feel like I made an error answering that. Like, it's not about me. This episode's not about me. I'm sorry I talked personally when I should have talked globally. Like, I do think it's important for people to receive as far as abundance is everywhere around us. I feel like I've sound too self-centered in this episode, but it's because you keep asking me questions, so I keep, I'm sorry about that.
No, no, we're
No,
not.
no, no.
No, we're not examples of anything except ourselves and what we feel in this very moment on this very day,
Yeah.
which is like all that the audience would want to hear of, what our
I think
thoughts are.
it comes down to the win-win in the 7 habits of highly effective people. He says win-win only. I think I'm fine receiving if there's a win-win going on. You know what I mean? Like if somebody gave me gift after gift and like, I mean, I don't know. I hope that people like in a perfect world, there would be giving and receiving in an infinity symbol of grace and love. How's that?
Yes, I agree. And also, your opinion that's personal, all of our opinions that are personal, are not isolated. There are other people with the same personal opinion. So we're not just talking about us, we're talking about somebody we don't know who will see that if they watch and say, oh, yes, me too. I get that.
Okay, well, is that a good place to stop because we're at time?
That would,
Yeah.
being at
Yeah.
time would be a good place to.
Thank you so much for leading. That was refreshing, and
It
I loved
it
it.
was great. I'm glad you led. Need more.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right, you guys. Well,
Well, so
go ahead.
go ahead.
So
I guess I was gonna say, so next episode we'll talk about the relationships and other treasures
yes,
chapter.
chapter 9. I have it. I'll read it. I swear to God.
All right.
Right on.
Let your flow happen, everyone. Give yourself something to flow the money towards and go after it.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yay.
See
Thank
you
you
guys next
guys.
week.
This was fun. See you.
Bye. See you next
Bye.
week.